Hey, my name is Saul, the creator of the Summoner's Nexus TCG, a digital indie trading card game on iOS and Android devices, currently in its open beta, and I recently took my game to the UK Games Expo. Now, a little bit of background, Summoner's Nexus entered its pre-alpha earlier this year, and its open beta a little bit later, so I recently had to make the switch from a development mindset to a promotion mindset, right? Marketing and getting the news of my game out there so people would come and play it, which you should too, by the way. It's completely free to download, all the cards are free, so if that seems interesting to you, please, there's a link in the bio that will take you to our website where you can download the game directly from our servers and give it a shot. Please share your feedback, share your experiences, and join the Discord community. Links down below as well for any questions or just to meet people and have matches. Back to the video. When that mindset shift happened, I started trying to figure out different ways that I could promote my game. Obviously, YouTube, the channel that you see right here and now, was one of the marketing tools that I started working on. But another thing that I did was catalog a list of every single convention that I could reasonably find in the United Kingdom and some abroad that had to do with gaming, card games, anime, so on and so forth. For some of the more niche gatherings, I scoured Google, message boards, investigated people's profiles to try and find places where I should exhibit myself as an indie creator. But the UK Games Expo was a very visible event that I thought very highly of and did not think that I would be able to get a space at. Now, the main reason why I thought this way was because a lot of the smaller conventions that I had applied for were already completely full and I was joining their waiting list. And so I thought the UK Games Expo, with an estimated, I think, 72,000 people in attendance, one of the biggest expos in the UK, well, I just didn't think that they would have any space left over. And I was completely correct. They didn't. I emailed one of the people in charge of the convention and asked to be put on the waiting list. He said he would add me on, and if anything came up, he would let me know. And I really didn't think I'd be hearing from him again. But not too long after that, I did, and he had a table ready for me to book. It was 3 by 2 meters, and he indicated to me exactly where it would be on the convention hall floor. But more so than that, this table was only about 270 pounds. Now, I know that might sound like a lot, and to someone with literally no marketing budget, I guess technically everything is a lot, but bear in mind, at this point, I've learned the fact that to exhibit at conventions like MCM or PAX, it could cost me something in the range of 2,000 pounds, and I was more than happy to take this. Now, I sorted out the details and the payment for the convention months in advance, and in truth, by the time the convention itself came around, I was somewhat disillusioned on the idea of conventions as a whole, right? I had had a negative experience at CardCon. I had just about managed to have a positive experience at PAX East, and in truth, I was starting to feel that maybe conventions weren't the right way to try and market my game. I appreciated them for their networking potential, but since that wasn't something that you could guarantee would happen at an event like this, I was genuinely thinking as I was driving to the convention hall that my money would be better spent on advertisements or integrations with YouTubers. My hopes going into this and my expectations genuinely weren't the highest. I think it's fair to say that I was pretty disillusioned around the whole idea in general, a sentiment which I made very clear to my loved ones at the time. But there was this sentiment echoing in the back of my head. It was cheaper. It was cheaper. It was so much cheaper than the other opportunities that I had undertaken that no matter how this convention went, there was genuinely no way for me to feel bad about it. So that's the ethos that carried me into the first day, and my God, am I glad that it did, because the first day was a mess. Now, the main convention was scheduled to take place on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but I applied for and managed to get a space in the pre-show preview that took place on the Thursday before. The notice that I got regarding that pre-show preview said that exhibitors were allowed to come in from 5 p.m. and that the show would start at 6. Now, what I took this to mean was that I was allowed to arrive at 5 and I had an hour to set up my stall before the show began. But this apparently was not the case. The hall for the expo overall opened from 12 p.m. in the afternoon. I just wasn't aware of that fact. The only thing that opened up at 5 was the pre-show preview hall, but because that was the first email that I had received, I thought that I wasn't allowed to come in until 5. So other vendors were already well into the process of setting up, not their stalls for the pre-show preview, but their stalls for the weekend overall. Now, I learned about this and I thought to myself, well, you know what? That's not the end of the world, right? I still have an hour to do what I need to do based on when I've gotten to the hall. But when I tell you, okay, God bless the people who did the UK Games Expo, because I had a genuinely phenomenal time, not to bury the lead here, but the process of getting in and setting up the organization of the staff and communication, so on and so forth, it was oh my goodness, it was crazy. I learned while I was there that you have like veterans of the show, people who come back year after year after year, and there are so many people like that what I think has happened is that everyone just assumes that everyone who's there already knows everything. Everyone already knows where to go, and so you don't have to ask questions. And so a lot of the staff that had come on either as volunteers or to like take part in traffic direction and management for the weekend did not know the answers to a lot of basic questions, because I guess the assumption was that no one would ask them. I have to just assume that to be the case because of the events that I'm about to tell you about. So first things first, I paid for parking at the NEC in Birmingham in advance based on my experiences at other conventions wherein you go for the event and the parking on the day is ridiculously high, but if you booked in advance, if you booked in preparation for the event, you get a significantly lower rate. So I did that. There was a section on the NEC website dedicated to the UK Games Expo, right? People who are visiting the UK Games Expo, purchase your parking in advance, here you go. I later found out that all exhibitors had a free parking pass, which maybe was in the correspondences somewhere, but I definitely didn't see it. So that was a waste of money out the gate, but at least it meant that I had secured decent parking in the Blue Badge area, which I thought, okay, it'll give me the ability to set up where I need to. While I myself am not disabled, I do have family and friends who have difficulties with mobility, and so whenever I'm booking for an event like this, especially if I don't know who's going to be coming with me, I always book in that way just to be safe. Now, on the Thursday, I arrive at the NEC, and this place is massive, but I go to the main gate that my sat-nav took me to. I ask the guy at the gate, I say, okay, I've got a Blue Badge parking ticket, I'm here for the UK Games Expo, where do I go? Now, he looked over my car, he looked over the fact that I had a couple of suitcases filled with luggage, and he said, you know what, go down to Bay 12 and drive into the expo hall, that way you can unload your stuff. I say, absolutely, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I drive over to gate 12, and then I meet the attendant that they have over there, and then he looks me over, and he says, I mean, do you have a lot of stuff? Like, do you need to drive into the hall? Well, me personally, I've only got 2 suitcases, a hand luggage bag, and my backpack, and this guy sort of making it seem like, okay, driving into the hall would make your life a little bit more tedious. No, you're better off going to the East Gate, right? Go to East Gate 1 and park there and just, carry your stuff in. It'll be a lot more convenient. It'll be a lot more seamless. So I drive over to East Gate 1. Mind you, I started at East 5, then went to East 12, and then they sent me to East 1. I got there and I asked for help. I asked for directions from the people who seemed to know where they were going, and they pointed me in the direction of Hall 4, which is where the email said that I needed to go for the pre-show preview. Now remember, I thought I was only allowed to get there for 5, and so a good chunk of that time, right, the 1 hour that I had to set up, was just eaten up by driving around in circles, right? I would say maybe something in the range of like 15, maybe 20 minutes, I don't know. Still, my boots are on the ground, I'm ready to go, I start walking, and then I walk, and then I walk, and then I walk, and this path to get from the East 1 car park, whoever that guy was, I felt rage in my spirit, in my chest, because I didn't understand the layout of this place well enough. He basically condemned me to a 20-minute walk with all of my luggage to drag it all the way into the expo hall by telling me not to drive in and unload my stuff there. Mind you, this guy looked me over, he looked me dead in the eye, he saw all of the luggage in my suitcase, and he still sent my ass all the way to the back to then walk in with all of that stuff. And I went like an idiot because I was like, oh yeah, this guy is probably trying to do me a solid. The guy who, told me to come over here in the first place was probably just trying to make things more tedious, I guess, right? The way that this guy is talking makes it seem like the easiest thing that I can do is go to East 1 and just walk my way in, which made sense in my head because at all of the other conventions that I've been to, you just walk in with your bags and the convention hall is right there, but nope, that wasn't the case here. So yeah, I walked for about 15 to 20 minutes with all of my luggage because even before I knew the full distance, I wasn't sure if I would have enough time to make a return trip and still be like, okay, to set up everything that I needed to. So I went with all of the essentials, and thank God that I did, because by the time I made it to the expo hall, I probably had about like half an hour to 25 minutes left in order to get to where I needed to be and set up. But I still thought to myself, okay, that's more than enough time. I'm drenched in sweat. I'm dragging all this luggage around in the summer heat, and I go straight to Hall 4. Mind you, this place is massive, but I navigate with my bags to Hall 4 where the email told me to go, and the men at the door tell me that I'm not allowed to come in. They say that I have to go and get my exhibitor pass before I'm allowed into the expo hall. I say, you know what? Fair enough, if you say so. Where do I go for my exhibitor badge? They say go to hall 1, we think. We're not actually sure. I'm not kidding verbatim. They were like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's hall 1. I was like, hall 1? He was like, yeah, go to hall 1. Pretty sure that's where you'll find it. I go to hall 1. The guy at the door to hall 1 who's navigating people, telling them where they need to go, I ask him, where do I go for my exhibitor badge? And he says, oh, I'm pretty sure you just keep walking straight, right? Pretty sure. Again, mind the language. I'm like, all right, cool. There's like 3-4 different queues. I joined the one that he pointed to, and it's relatively empty. I ask around, I'm asking people, oh, is this where exhibitors go to get their passes? Is this where they go? And everyone's like, I mean, that's a VIP line. So like maybe, probably it's for guests and VIP. So maybe that's where it is. Again, lots of maybes, lots of ahs. I get in that line, make it to the very front, get to the place where they're giving out the tickets. And this isn't the hall where they give out exhibitor passes, right? This is just the hall for regular tickets. They then point me in the direction of hall number 3. And they say, please take your stuff with you. Go to hall 3. That's where you're going to get your exhibitor badge. None of this was in the email, mind you. I go over to hall 3 and I try and get in and get my exhibitor badge. And the guy at the door says, no, I can't let you in without your exhibitor badge. You have to go to hall 1. And at this point, I'm about ready to crash out. I'm like, I just got back from hall 1. What do you mean, brother? And he's adamant. He's so sure. He's like, nope, I can't let you in without the badge. You have to go to hall 1, go to hall 1, go to hall 1. And he wasn't listening to reason. Now, luckily, there were multiple doors for these halls and I had just about enough. So I went around his back to the other door and without him seeing me, spoke to the guy at that door and I was like, please, I am begging you. I just want to get my exhibitor badge. They told me to come here. They said that this is where it was. And he was like, oh yeah, go to the very back of this hall, to your back left, and you'll find the badges. And I'm like, what the actual hell is going on organizationally? Now, mind you, at this point, it's about like 10 minutes to when the pre-show preview is supposed to start. So I am panicking, but at this point, like, I'm so frustrated and flustered that I'm just sort of going through the motions. And so I go to the guys, I get my exhibitor badge, yippee, hoorah, I can finally go for the pre-show preview. I head my way over there, get there about 10 minutes late, find my table, and I'm able to set up. Now remember, I already told you that I was disillusioned on the idea of exhibitions as a whole. So at this point, like, I'm not at 100, right? I'm not like jumping and jiving with all of the energy that I normally would want to be, but I definitely have it in me to see it through the pre-show preview. I set up minimally, right? I don't do the full setup that I would have wanted to do because I don't want to disrupt the other people who have already set up. The preview has already begun, right? Like, I noticed a few people giving me some looks and some side eyes as I came in late and like began my setup process. So I went very minimalistic, but it had enough to sort of show off what I was doing. And I managed to have some decent conversations, right? Some people came over, I did an interview with them, which was really, really cool. Some people invited me to be on their podcast, and it was okay, right? Like my big takeaway from it was that it was okay. It was a 2.5 hour event. I clocked in about 7 solid conversations, I would say, and I managed to meet the people who were in the booths, like, directly next to me, and had some really cool conversations about, you know, the gaming industry, their routes, what they had done, because they were also creators to an extent. And so, yeah, it was fine. It was fine. I drove back home that night and I stopped in like a lay-by station and I just like sat there and ate a burger and just contemplated life and the mysteries of the universe in my car. At that point, I was planning to drive there and back every single day of the convention. Thank goodness one of my friends convinced me to change my mind and to just like book an Airbnb or a motel for while I was there, because that night I was so exhausted, but I was glad to be able to drive. If you've watched the PAX East video, you know that like my back tail light got taken out in an accident, and I had managed to fix it just in time for this expo, so I was able to drive to and from the event. But yeah, no, I was out of it. I had gone to try and set up my main show display after the pre-show preview, but I got kicked out after about like 15 minutes because the hall closed at 9. That being said, the guy at the door did try and let me have as much extra time as he could, which was a nice glimmer of human kindness, but as a result, I ended up getting up at about 5 a.m. the next day to drive back down to Birmingham where the expo was taking place and set up my stand in good fashion. Now, a few important things are like worth noting. One, in terms of my mindset going into the event, I've said it a couple of times, completely disillusioned, but two, my friend Nat agreed to come with me and help me set up and man the stall, which was game changing. I'll be completely honest with you, right? I learned from PAX East that you're better off exhibiting with someone by your side. It makes the experience better for you, and the joy that brings, the atmosphere that brings attracts more customers, and that couldn't be any, like, it's just so true. Day one comes around, and with each passing hour, I can feel my mood shifting. I can feel my attitude shifting, right? I came into the event with the mindset, again, I'm not here to make money, I'm here for exposure, and I was exposed. I managed to get quite a bit of traction to the point that on that Friday, I managed to pull in about 40 odd conversations. Now that might not seem like much, but that was about the same number that I clocked in at PAX East. And on Saturday, I clocked in something in the range of 60, again, rivaling the numbers from PAX. Sunday didn't manage to meet that same marker, right? I managed to clock in around 15 conversations on the Sunday. But at that point, I had already had such an overwhelmingly positive experience that I could not even be mad, right? There was just like this energy, this vibe about the event as a whole that was just so inviting, is what I would say, right? Like if I had to give a word to it, I felt welcomed. I felt like I had a spot, and also I felt like I was attracting people like in the correct niche. Everyone who came over, I carried over my banners from the PAX situation, and so it was very clear to everyone who came by exactly what I was doing and who I was. So for the most part, you only got people who were interested in trading card games coming to talk to me, which made a lot more of my conversations meaningful, right? You did have people who just wanted to appreciate the art, which I also appreciated, but I was more so focused on getting potential players, potential community members, which I do think I managed to achieve. And again, it's crazy to think I got about the same amount of motion that I did at PAX, but this felt so much more impactful and significant. And I think that largely comes down to the fact that this cost like 1/10 the total price of that event, right? So it's like, it made me feel a lot better about the value that I was getting for what I had invested. It made it feel like a very good business decision. You did still have some people, as you always tend to do, where it's like, okay, I did have one or two people who stood out where I don't know what it is. I think people are so disillusioned by like the idea of free things, where there was a guy who came over and one of his mates was like, oh, free TCG. And he was like, nah, mate, that's how they get you. And he laughed and he walked away. And I'm like, okay, like I don't necessarily feel hurt by that. It's a little bit annoying, but it's like, I guess the fact that I would give something away that I had made for free because I'm more interested in traction and motion than money at the current stage, like that's a foreign concept. And yes, eventually there will be things that a consumer might need to pay for in my product. So I guess I can sort of see where that mentality is coming from, but I'm not a AAA company. I'm not looking to bleed my audience dry is the thing. And so that was a little stinging point, but like it could not even come close to comparing to how good overall this event was. I had an amazing time, met some amazing people, made some amazing contacts, right? I met someone who had been one of the, I believe he was a product manager for Yu-Gi-Oh! In the EU for like 9 odd years. I met another person who was like a games producer at EA. I met another person who like, there was such a wide palette of people and I managed to attract all of them. Oh my goodness, something else that was so, my heart could barely handle it was they made a guide, right? So leading up to the show, they had this page that you could set up like the profile for your booth. And I just did it on a whim, not knowing exactly what it would be for. It was for like a book that they made as a guide. The event map was so well structured. Even if there was chaos around the organization for vendors, as a visitor to the event, it was the first event that I've gone to that I was like, oh, I would be so excited if I ever got a chance to go, not as an exhibitor, but like just as a visitor, is how good this was. Because they had like a map that very clearly indicated each individual stall, what that stall was about and its location, that you could cross-reference on like as part of your pamphlet. And so you had people going in like a treasure map kind of way, going to the specific stalls that they wanted to visit for the specific things that they wanted to check out. It was very neat and organized in that way. And I had a few people who had looked at my stall description in advance and looked me up and found out about the game and came already knowing who I was and what I was doing. And some of them had already played the game. It was so, oh my heart was so full. There was that interaction. There were two interactions like that with two groups of people who came over. That is what made my day. The people who actively came and sought me out, my God, I cannot tell you what that did for me emotionally. And just like the reassurance that like, yeah, I'm doing something right. This was a great event overall. I'm absolutely going to be going to the next one. I think this is going to be added to like my yearly roster of events. I'm already on, I've subscribed to the newsletter to go to the next one as well, just to make sure that I never have to miss one of these, because my goodness, was it a marvelous, fantastic experience. So yeah, that was a breakdown of my experience at the UK Games Expo. It's the kind of thing that I think more experience will allow to go even better, because I learned a lot from this go round, right? Like I said, there seems to almost be an unspoken language between the veterans, and so some things you have to learn on the fly, but now that I've learned those things, I imagine that navigating it the next time will be even better. And I will always be booking an Airbnb to stay at each night, because I got somewhere that was like 20 minutes away from the venue. It made my life so much easier. Please do that if you're ever going to an expo. It's not worth driving the 2 hours every morning and every night. So yeah, thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe in case you're interested in hearing more convention stories and seeing how my development journey continues as we move into the next stage of development. I've been Saul. Check out the Summoners Nexus TCG link in the description, and take care. Bye.